Okay, so have you ever looked at a really important document and just felt completely lost? I think we all have. And if you're learning English, it can be even harder, right? Some of those official papers are just so confusing. Well, today we're going to look at a really cool solution. It's all about using the simple power of pictures to make things a lot easier to understand.
All right, here's what we've got planned. First, we'll talk about why contracts are so confusing in the first place. Then, we'll meet this awesome idea called a visual contract. After that, we'll dive into how pictures actually help our brains learn, check out 5 really important findings from research, and wrap it all up with some simple tips that you can start using today.
Okay, part 1, why are contracts so darn confusing? Let's jump right into this, because it's a problem a lot of us face, especially when you're learning a new language. You get a document and it just feels impossible to read.
So, do you ever feel totally lost when you're reading long documents? If you said yes, trust me, you are not alone. It's a super common feeling. A lot of these official papers, like contracts, are just really hard to read. And here's the thing, it is not your fault. They're usually written in a way that's difficult for pretty much everyone.
Okay, just look at this comparison. It shows the difference so clearly. On the left, you've got your typical traditional contract. It's just a wall of text, right? So many long, complicated words. It's like, where do you even start? But now, look over on the right. The sentences are short, they're simple, they're clear. You know exactly what your rights are. It's such a big difference, isn't it? So, all those super difficult words we just saw, there's a name for them: jargon. Jargon is basically special words that only certain groups of people use, like lawyers or doctors. And it's this jargon that makes old-school contracts so hard for the rest of us to understand. All right, section 2, meet the visual contract. So if all that jargon is the big problem, what's the answer? Well, good news, there is a much better way. Let's get to know a new kind of contract, one that's actually designed for everybody to understand. So what is a visual contract? Well, it's a legal agreement that uses pictures, simple words, and a really good design to make it easy for people to understand. And here's the important part. Don't let the pictures fool you. This is a real legal contract. The big difference is that it's designed to be simple, clear, and easy for you. So what do these visual contracts actually do? How do they work? Well, instead of that confusing jargon, they use pictures and diagrams. They use colors to help show you the really important parts. They stick to simple, everyday words. And they highlight the most important details so you see them right away. It's all about making sure you can focus on what's truly important in the agreement. And this picture really says it all, doesn't it? When a contract is clear and easy to understand, it's not scary anymore. It actually becomes a tool that helps people work together. And that clarity, well, that's what builds trust. And trust is so important for any agreement. Okay, section 3, how pictures help us learn. Now, you might be thinking, okay, this sounds nice, but does it actually work? Are pictures really better than just words? And the answer is a big yes. And science actually tells us why. Yeah, there's actual research on this. It shows that pictures help our brains understand and remember information way better. Our brains are just wired to process pictures much faster than they can process text. And get this, a lot of the proof comes from studies on how comics help people learn new languages. It turns out that putting words and pictures together is a super powerful way for our brains to learn. So, let's get into it. Section 4, 5 key findings. This research has given us 5 really big takeaways that show just how powerful pictures can be for learning. Let's break them down one by one. Finding number 1, pictures improve understanding. This is probably the most important one. When you see a picture right next to some words, it gives your brain extra clues about what those words mean. It's kind of like having a little helper right there on the page guiding you along. Number 2, pictures make learning more interesting. I mean, let's be real, pictures are just more fun, right? And researchers found the same thing. When you use pictures in learning, students are way more interested, more active, and just more excited to learn. It makes the whole thing less of a chore. Okay, number 3, and this is a huge one for anyone learning English. Pictures help you learn new words. When you see a new word right next to a picture of what it is, your brain makes a really strong connection between them. And that connection makes it so much easier to remember the new word later on. Number 4, pictures help you remember information. So it's not just about understanding something right when you see it. Using pictures actually helps you remember things for a much longer time. That word and picture connection helps the information to really stick in your brain. And last but not least, number 5, pictures make your brain work less hard.
So scientists had this term called cognitive load, which is really just a fancy way of saying how hard your brain has to work. Pictures lower that load. The picture does some of the heavy lifting, which lets your brain relax a bit and focus on understanding the big ideas. Okay, let's move on to our last section, simple tips for you. So what does this all mean for you? How can you actually use this in your day-to-day life? Here are a few simple, really practical tips for the next time you have to look at a contract or any confusing document, really.
All right, so how should you approach any contract? Here are 4 steps. Step 1, look for pictures and diagrams. Seriously, they are there to help you, so use them. Step 2, find any words that are highlighted or in bold text. That's a big clue that they're really important. Step 3, ask questions. It is always okay to ask, what does this mean? Never feel bad about that. And step 4, remember your rights. A contract is supposed to be fair, and it's supposed to be clear.
The biggest thing to remember from all of this is that contracts don't have to be scary. They really don't. You should feel confident when you see one. When they're designed well, they're just simple tools that are meant to help everyone. And that leads to this great quote. A good contract is designed for people. This whole idea is called human-centered design. It's a simple thought, but it's powerful. It just means that things should be made for actual people to use easily. And it's totally changing how we think about legal stuff. So that leaves us with one final question for you to think about. We've seen just how powerful pictures are for understanding something as complicated as a contract. So my question is, how can you start using more pictures to help you learn English every single day? How can you make it easier and maybe even a little more fun? Definitely something to think about. Thanks so much for joining me today.